Welcome to the Mama Needs a Moment podcast with your hosts, Chrissy and Cindy, co-founders of Her Plus Health Collective, and moms who understand the chaos of juggling it all. But here's the thing, your well-being matters. That's why we're on a mission to change the way moms take care of themselves. This season, every episode features a roundtable conversation, bringing together trusted experts from different backgrounds to talk about the topics that matter most to moms, creating space for more collaborative, whole person care. These episodes are short, meaningful, and easy to fit into real life. You'll hear from our Her Plus expert providers sharing expert insight and real-life tips you can use right away. Learn more about them in our free provider directory linked in the show notes. So take a deep breath, grab your coffee, and let's make these moments count. Welcome to Mama Needs a Moment, and a warm welcome to our Her Plus expert providers who are joining us for a discussion on supporting siblings and balancing needs in multi-child families. We are focusing on the very delicate balancing act of raising multiple children while trying to meet each child's emotional, developmental, and behavioral needs. And this is something that comes up a lot. Before we begin, each expert will briefly introduce themselves and share their area of focus. Our podcast episodes are also available in video format on our YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Carrie Ann Dittner, and I am a clinical and developmental psychologist. I am also the owner and founder of Peak City Psychology in Apex. And most importantly, I am the mom of three boys, so I've had my fair share of sibling issues over the years.
Hi, my name is Elise Davis. I am a licensed counselor and the owner of Present Practice Counseling. I have advanced training in dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, which really focuses on getting real tools into people for their real life problems. That helps us regulate our emotions and be able to have healthy relationships. I have one daughter and she is a handful, so looking forward to talking about this more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Winslow. I am a pediatric occupational therapist by trade and the owner of Emerge Pediatric Therapy and the Therapeutic Edge Collective. I have specialized training in sensory processing, executive function, emotional regulation, and really have spent a lot of my time recently really working with whole family systems on addressing each other's regulation needs and how we play off of that. So I'm excited about the conversation today. I have three daughters. And so, yes, also deal with sibling conflicts and looking forward to diving in.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gigi Miller. I am a productivity coach, and my focus of my business, The Organized Life, is working with women and helping them with executive function support and also later diagnosed in life with ADHD.
Hello, everyone. My name is Quinandria Lee. I am a licensed clinical mental health therapist and a former school counselor, always worked in middle school. I am also the owner and CEO of Curated Space Counseling and Consulting. So I work with a diverse population. So I work with teenagers and then through adults. I do not have any children, but my extensive background with working with students and just my background in therapy also lends my expertise in this conversation. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And we're just going to go straight into our discussion because it's going to be a good one. And we have a lot of information to cover today. So if you're parenting more than one child, you've probably had the moment where you think to yourself, how did these kids come from the same household? I know that I have had that thought in my mind with my two kids. One child melts down easily. Another one seems unbothered by everything. One thrives on routine. Another pushes against it. And as parents, we're often trying to respond to all of that at the same time, while also avoiding comparisons, labels, or the feeling that somehow we are just getting it all wrong. Let's break this down and talk about what's really happening beneath the surface when kids respond so differently to the same family environment. So my question to all of you is, how can parents better understand and support the different temperaments, the developmental stages, and the brain wiring of their children? without falling into that comparison or self-blame that we often do fall into.
It's a big question. Obviously, there are so many unique needs with all of our children. They do not come with a blank slate that we can kind of like mold and prep in different ways. They do not respond to the same parenting strategies that we have. I think first and foremost, I have like two things on the top of my head. One is that we have to label them as different, not difficult. I think parenting from the right framework is essential. If you're parenting from a place of they are difficult, or this is my smart one, or this is my one who screams all the time, or this is the one who does this, if we're labeling them in these broad terms, it is going to impact our parenting. So there needs to be a lot of work done, I think, on the part of the parent to be like, they're different, right? So that framework is hugely important. And secondly, I think the second thing that parents need to be doing is being flexible with themselves. Guilt comes from this idea that I am not doing enough. I'm not treating them the same. I spent 4 hours with this one person on math homework and I didn't get to this person. They are parenting the moment. So much of the time, they get caught up in, oh my gosh, I didn't spend any time with them. And then they are going to hate me and they're going to be more difficult tomorrow. And then we start this spiral of anxiety. So I think for sure the other framework is that they're parenting the moment, right? They have to do with what's in front of them, especially with multiple siblings. So I think allowing themselves to be flexible and not getting into this like anxiety spiral that I'm not doing the right thing.
I would love to add to that. I think, one of the things that I often talk to parents about, because I think when we're looking at elements, we're always coming from, I think there is this like blame, guilt sort of thing of like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do better? How do I need to improve at this? And so I really like working with parents to help them look through a whole different approach of, are there sensory elements that we need to consider? So are there some kids might be more reactive to certain sensory stimuli. Some kids might need more sensory stimuli in different ways. And so how can we also take a step back and look through a completely different lens to see, what does everyone need to feel their best selves? And that includes the parents too. Because I think so often we spend so much time on like, what does this kid need? What does that kid need? That we forget what we need too. So really being able to think about it's not that they're difficult or they're trying to do something willful. What is this behavior actually trying to tell us? What is it trying to communicate? And then how can I use different frameworks to be able to see, is there a sensory dynamic? Is there executive function challenges? What are kind of the different pieces that we need to look at to paint a bigger picture of helping us to know how to respond and reducing some of that feeling of kind of shame and guilt?
You all are bringing up such really good points. And I think there is that awareness of like, we don't need perfect children, or our children are not going to be exactly the same. And when we recognize that, that invites us and allows us to be really flexible with our parenting, as you were talking about, Carrie, like parenting the moment and like for what's needed. And even you, Brittany, about like the different needs of each particular child. One of the things that I really think about is when we have two siblings, what are the components that make up their behaviors or their basic temperament? And so when you make a kid, right, we have our biology that goes into the mix. And even as I was thinking about this, like what goes in the mix is not even exactly the same. Even if you have two parents, right, like whatever that mix is going to be biologically different for each kid. And then in addition to that, even when you have siblings that are born within the same household, they have different experiences. And so there's these transactions that happen throughout their life that ends up shaping their behaviors. And we are a part of that, right? So the parents contribute to them, they contribute to us. And so this happens kind of over time to shape their behaviors and their needs. And so if we can be able to, when situations happen, first of all, take a breath, right? And just, what's happening? What do we need in this moment? How do I acknowledge that I'm not going to be able to be 100 places at once? And to say, what does this particular child or situation need, and do the best we can moving forward, right? And a lot of that can reduce the guilt, reduce the sense of urgency and pressure to like get it right at that moment, as well as giving us the flexibility to see what's needed right then.
I'd like to add everything everyone has said is amazing. From my perspective, if a person has ADHD, you don't want to look at it as just treating the person. You want to look at it as treating the whole family. And I think that education is a big piece of that. And understanding why someone's behaving the way they're behaving, or, why do they do things this way? I think it's really important at a young age so the whole family is educated on what's going on and involved in whatever treatment is going on.
I'm thinking about everything that everyone has brought up, and I'm actually looking at this from the adult children, the adult siblings perspective. And so much of what happens in the house, there can be differences, as we just talked about, in how a child feels they're being treated. What does that look like as they grow into adulthood? How do we keep that from becoming this place of resentment between two children? Because that's something I see a lot in adult sibling relationships.
This episode is brought to you by Her Circle, the ultimate community for moms looking for real connections, meaningful experiences, and expert support.
From mom's night out and family adventures to book club, volunteer opportunities, and expert workshops, Her Circle is where moms come together to learn, laugh, and lift each other up.
Spots are limited, so join the waitlist at herhealthcollective.com/membership and be the first to know when doors open.
I really encourage parents from day one to narrate those differences because we all have them. I really encourage them to say, your sister needs help with reading. You need help with frustration. You need help with organization. I narrate those differences, and I am here as a parent for all of it. I am going to show up in the way that you need it individually. Okay, so really narrating that. And when a sibling comes and said, you spent all day with this child, perhaps who's neurodivergent and has some ADHD, and you just spent 4 hours and I sat alone this whole time. Validate that, right? So you're narrating your differences and you're validating how they feel about those differences. You were saying you're absolutely right. I did spend 4 hours, and I'd like to figure out a time where you and I can reconnect, right? And offering that repair opportunity as well. And I think if we lay the basis for that, if we're narrating differences, if we are parenting at the moment for what our needs are, we're communicating it and repairing it, I think that helps go a long way for not hating your sibling when you're an adult.
I definitely agree. I love the narrating the differences, but I will say in that narration, not making there be a hierarchy, right? Where it's because your sister or your sibling, is neurodivergent, like their needs come before yours, or it's, I have to take more time because, so not making it a hierarchy where it's, their needs are more important than that sibling's needs. But the second part, Dr. Carey said, is the validation piece, where it's you are validating their experience and you're not making an excuse for it, right? Where it's just like, well, that your sister needs more time, or this thing, because then it could put that child in a space where there is resentment, because it's like you always needed this extra time, or mom or dad always spent this extra time, versus a place of understanding. Or it can also lead to them starting to parent their sibling, where it's, I have to look at this child or my sibling in a more, I'm the adult and they're the child, and I have to take care of them because my parent always made their needs so big and bigger than mine, right? So it's making sure that you're understanding the validation doesn't always have to come with an excuse. It's just like, you're right, I did. So how can we make time to spend together? And it may not quantify the 4 hours, right? It's just like, how would you feel loved in this moment? How can I spend just some time with you in this moment?
I was just going to highlight, they're both bringing up some really key skills that I want to just put a pin in, right? So one, we're talking about observing and describing. So as opposed to judging or evaluating said behavior, we're describing the need, right? Kiddo is struggling with math. They need some extra tutoring help. This is what we're doing. So just what are the facts of the situation? That can go a long way with reducing judgments, reducing resentment, reducing bitterness, all those different things. We're also talking about validation and what does validation mean? And validation is really I see you, I hear you, I get what's going on. And oftentimes when we're talking about things like resentment, there is an unmet need. And at some point, that need was not communicated either well outwardly, or the parent or sibling or other person in the family did not receive it. So we're having an issue of like missed signals. So when we validate, we are taking the time to say, I see your signal, I hear it. We're also seeking clarification. Like, is that right? Like, do you actually need this? So we're making sure we're able to support them in the way that they need. And then I think the other thing that we're really talking about is the dialectic. And I really appreciate that you brought this up of it's not one over the other. It's both. It's that we'll say Timmy needs extra math help, and Tiffany really wants me to sit and listen to her sing a song. Both of those things are important. And I can't do all those things at the same time. Can we create a system or try to problem solve together? So we're inviting everybody into the solution to say, what can we do here? Because we've got two needs that are both valid, and how can we move forward? And I think into adulthood, by doing that starting in childhood, we're starting to teach them that both and language. We're starting to teach them about problem solving and about prioritizing, and even this space of like frustration tolerance or distress tolerance, that like, yeah, I do have an unmet need, and how do I have the skills to tolerate that at the same time? I think all those things really go a long way into adulthood, and we start the seeds when they're young.
I'd like to say one thing about something that when adults come to me, they struggle with is identity. And so, there's certain roles that are established when you're children. And if you're neurodivergent, that might be the troublemaker, the rebel, and then the other child might be seen as the achiever, the peacemaker. And these identities stay with you into adulthood, and some can be strengths and others can really impact in a negative way. So I think it's important to discuss as a family and your kids, like when these things keep coming up, just to be careful of like what's happening and how they're seeing each other, because that does stay with them through adulthood.
I love this talk because, as I said, so many adult sibling relationships that I'm aware of are really fractured. And I think that impacts what's happening in the home, impacts the children, obviously, as children, but also as adults. But I also want to acknowledge that it's impacting parents. If we talk to moms every single day in our community who are really struggling with the sibling dynamic in the home. One of the biggest struggles we hear that parents share is this fear of being unfair, that they're constantly doing mental math. Have I given them equal time, energy, attention, patience? And realizing that it never quite adds up. When one child needs more support, more regulation, more accommodations, it can stir up guilt, resentment, confusion for parents and siblings alike. I would love to dive into a conversation around how we can help parents release that guilt when one child needs more.
Be sure to come back for our next episode, where you can get more information from our Her Plus expert providers in this current roundtable discussion on supporting siblings and balancing needs in multi-child families.
That's a wrap. You carved out a few moments just for yourself, and that's a big deal.
We understand that time is limited, but we've got your back, which is why we keep these episodes short, sweet, and packed with goodness.
Don't miss a thing. Hit the follow button so you're always the first to know when a new episode drops. If you had as much fun as we did, let us know by leaving a review.
And remember to let other moms know that we're here doing motherhood alongside you. Grateful to share a few moments taking care of you.